Here's question number 14 of the 2009 Regents Math A test. It says the midpoint of AB has coordinates of 5, -1. If the coordinates of A are 2, -3, what are the coordinates of B? And at first you might say, okay, this is simple. I'm just going to take the points given here, 5, -1 and 2, -3, and apply the midpoint formula, and I'll get an answer and I'll move on to the next problem. But actually that's not what this problem is asking. It's already given us the midpoint of this line segment AB. It's already given us the midpoint, and it says the midpoint is this right here, 5, -1. So if we take our graph here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and go down 1, that point there is the midpoint. So the midpoint's been found. We're not looking for the midpoint. What we're actually looking for are the coordinates of point B. So let's go and plot coordinates of point A and then see where this takes us. So the coordinates of A are 2, -3. So I'm going to go out in the graph and plot 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, and that right there, that's point A. Okay, it's a nifty, that's A, okay? That's point A, that's the midpoint. So it stands to reason that point B is going to be somewhere out here. It couldn't be back here because then that would not be the midpoint. So the midpoint's over here, we go in this way, and it's probably in the first quadrant somewhere. But just to make absolutely sure, let's figure out where exactly it is. And we do this by means of slope. We go up 2 and over 3 to get to the midpoint, and then we just do that again. We go up 2 and over 3, and that point there, that new point, and I'll color it in this dark blue color here, will be point B. And that point has coordinates, let's see, this was 5, so that's 6, 7, 8, 1. That's 8, 1. If you didn't quite follow where I got the 8 from, I just realized that the midpoint has coordinates of 5, so I just counted out 3 further. But we can check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then up 1. So that's point B. And there it is in our answer, 8, 1. Now, supposing you had to do this without graphing paper for some reason. Now, on the Regents, you're given graph paper, so that's not a problem. But suppose for some reason, maybe your teacher wants you to be able to do this without graph for whatever reason. Maybe he's using very, very large points like 100s or 200s or something very large that can't fit on a graph paper. So here's what you'd do. You'd use the midpoint formula. And I would say that we're starting with the coordinates of A, so I would say 2 plus whatever the x coordinate is divided by 2 is equal to 5. And then I would have -3 plus whatever my y coordinate is over 2 is equal to -1. Okay, now let me explain where these numbers come from. The 2 comes from right here on point A. So this is the 2 from point A. And that's, of course, the x-coordinate. The -3 comes again from point A, right there. And then the x and the y, that's the coordinate of point B. This is the coordinates that we're looking for, x and y of coordinate B. And then the 5 comes from right here. That's the coordinate of the midpoint, the x-coordinate of the midpoint, and then the -1 is the y-coordinate of the midpoint. That's right there. So now we solve these two equations, and it shouldn't be too hard to do. You multiply both sides of this equation by 2, and after you do that, you get 2 plus x equals 5 times 2, which is 10. And then you subtract 2 from both sides, and you get x equals 8. Which so far is in alignment with what we found so far using the picture. And then we do the same thing here. We multiply both sides of this equation by 2. That doesn't change the sign of anything going on up here, so we still have -3 plus y equals 2 times -1 is -2. And then we add 3 to both sides, because it's a -3. We add 3 to both sides, and we have y equals, and that is 1. And look at that. The x-coordinate is 8, the y-coordinate is 1, and that's exactly what we found here. So you have this now as a nice picture, which I think is the quickest way to do it, and you also have an algebraic way of doing it. Okay, let's try one more problem here. Here's problem number 15. It says, if x equals 2 and y equals -3, what is the value of this expression? The expression here is 2x squared minus 3xy minus 2y squared. So this is just evaluation. This is substituting numbers into an expression and evaluating. If you remember what I said about expressions before, there's no equal sign here, so that is an expression, not an equation. So what I like to do is I rewrite my expression and I just put parentheses wherever there are variables. So I have 2, and then I'm going to input x and then square it, minus 3, and I'm going to input the same value of x, and I'll use a different color for y just so that we can see what we're doing here. Y. And then we're going to continue minus 2, and then we'll have another y, and we'll square that as well. I don't think those colors are exactly the same, but oh well. Okay, now let's actually go and put the values in. We have x equals 2, so everywhere there's an x, there's an x, and there's an x, and that's it. So here we're going to input 2. By the 3, we're going to input a 2 in that parentheses, and then everywhere we see a y, we're going to input the number -3. Okay, so in this parentheses we have -3, and in this parentheses we have -3. And then we'll just do this piece by piece. So we end up with 2 times 2 squared is 4. That's multiplication dot. Minus, now 3 times 2 is 6. Right? 6 times -3, kind of taking this real step by step, and then minus 2 times, now -3 squared. Notice how the negative is inside the parentheses. It is inside the parentheses, so that means -3 times -3, which is positive 9. So this is just 2 times 9, and that 9 is positive. This negative sign just comes from there. That hasn't changed at all. Okay, so -3 squared is positive 9. All right, so 2 times 4 is 8. And now 6 times -3, that's a dot and that's a negative. 6 times -3 is -18, but we have a minus sign, so it's minus -18, which means it is going to be plus 18. And then 2 times 9 is 18, so minus 18. Okay? And that's pretty convenient because plus 18 and minus 18, they cancel each other out, and the answer we are left with is 8, which, ta-da, is right there. Excellent. I'll see you in the next video.